It all began on an ordinary Tuesday morning. The sun filtered gently through the kitchen window, and the hum of life carried on as usual. Emails to respond to, the dishwasher humming in the background, and the faint sound of Jason laughing at something on TV. It felt like any other day, calm and uneventful. I had just finished my second cup of coffee when a notification on my phone pulled me out of the moment. It was from the bank. My stomach tightened as I opened it, and within seconds, my world turned upside down. The college fund was empty, completely gone. For a while, I couldn't move. I stared at the numbers on the screen, trying to convince myself it was a mistake. I checked the account history, hoping there was an error, but the truth was impossible to deny. All of it, every cent we'd saved for Jason's future, was missing. Panic quickly gave way to disbelief, and then to dread. I needed answers, so I began digging. And what I discovered shattered me. Laura, my wife, my partner of over a decade, had drained the account. It wasn't an emergency, or even a mistake. She had spent the money recklessly. Lavish hotel stays, designer clothes, luxury dinners, and expensive getaways. All of it shared with another man, a man named Damien. I remember sitting alone in our bedroom, surrounded by silence. My chest felt tight. It wasn't just the money. It was the betrayal. Years of building a life together, of shared dreams and trust. It all felt like a cruel joke. I tried to think back, to see the signs I had missed, the moments that should have warned me. But nothing made it hurt less. Jason was only 10. I didn't know how to explain what had happened, or if I even should. But somehow, without being told, he knew something was wrong. What surprised me the most was how calm he remained. He didn't cry or panic. He just watched me closely, his eyes sharp and unreadable. And then, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, he started asking questions. About the money. About Damien. About what we could do. At first, I thought he was just trying to make sense of things in his own way. But then his behavior changed. He began spending more time alone in the garage, tinkering with things. He started asking me for old phones, spare computer parts, anything he could use. His questions became more specific. What were our passwords? Where did we keep financial records? How secure were our email accounts? I didn't understand what he was doing, but I let him be. Maybe because I didn't have the energy to stop him, or maybe because I was starting to believe that he had some sort of plan. Then one evening Laura called. Her voice was shaky, filled with desperation. She told me things with Damien had spiraled out of control. He wasn't the man she thought he was. He had become controlling and violent. She wanted out. She begged for help. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't forget what she had done. How she had robbed our son of his future and shattered the life we'd built. I told her no. I told her she had made her choices, and now she had to live with them. Days passed. Then one night, Jason came to me with a folder. Inside were screenshots, documents, and emails. Somehow, he had tracked Damien's activities, illegal transactions, hidden accounts, things that even I didn't fully understand. Jason had found proof that Damien wasn't just a cheat, he was a criminal. I was stunned. My 10-year-old son had quietly gathered evidence, set digital traps, and tracked someone far more dangerous than either of us had imagined.
And he wasn't done.
He told me he planned to meet Damien. I was horrified. I tried to stop him, but Jason had already taken steps. He had involved the authorities, passed them the information, and coordinated a meeting as bait. It was terrifying, but it worked. Damien was arrested. The authorities were impressed by the level of detail and clarity in Jason's information. They didn't know a child had put it all together. Afterward, things began to settle, at least on the surface. But inside, I was torn. I was proud of my son, of course. He was brilliant, capable, and incredibly brave. But I was also worried. What kind of 10-year-old does what he did? What kind of childhood was he having that he felt the need to take on so much? Laura called again. This time, her voice was different, broken, pleading. She asked for forgiveness. She wanted to come back, to make things right. But I couldn't let her in. I had to protect Jason and myself. She had crossed a line, and some things can't be undone. One night, Jason sat beside me on the couch and asked if everything would ever be normal again.
I didn't know what to say.
He looked so small, curled up with that serious expression on his face. He said he wanted to fix everything, make up for what had happened. I held him close, and for the first time in a while, I let myself cry. Because no child should feel that kind of responsibility. Now, months later, I look at Jason differently. I see his strength, his intelligence, his determination. But I also see the weight he carries. He's still a boy, but he's seen too much. I worry about what this will mean for him, how it will shape him. I worry about the fine line between being brilliant and becoming emotionally distant. I don't want him to lose his heart while using his mind. So I try to be present. I try to talk to him, to listen, to give him space and love. We're not healed, not yet. But we're surviving. And in this fragile piece we've built, I've made a promise to protect him, to guide him, and to never let him feel alone in this world again. In the weeks that followed, life took on a strange rhythm. Quiet, almost peaceful, yet filled with unspoken tension. Jason went back to school. I returned to work. We ate dinner together every night, just the two of us, trying to pretend that things were normal. But there were moments, small cracks in the silence, that reminded me everything had changed. Sometimes I'd catch Jason staring off into space, lost in thought. Other times, he'd ask questions that no 10-year-old should be asking, about trust, about betrayal, about whether people ever truly change. I always tried to answer honestly, but carefully, never wanting to damage his hope entirely.
He was different now.
More guarded, more thoughtful. He used to be a little impulsive, full of boyish energy. Now, he chose his words with care, watching people the way adults do, searching for motives, reading between the lines. It broke my heart to see that in him, even if I admired the maturity it showed. We had long talks at night, sometimes just about school or cartoons, other times about what happened. He asked about his mother, why she did what she did, whether I ever thought about forgiving her. I never gave him a firm answer. The truth was, I didn't know how to feel anymore. I still remembered the woman I married, the good times, the years we spent raising Jason together. But I also remembered that phone notification and the ache that followed. She made a choice, several in fact, and each one chipped away at the life we had. I couldn't let her back into our lives without risking everything we had left. One evening, Jason left a note on my nightstand. It simply said, "I'm okay, but I don't want you to worry about me. I'll never let anyone hurt us again." I sat there for a long time after reading it. I didn't know whether to feel comforted or deeply disturbed. That kind of burden didn't belong on his shoulders. It should have been mine. Eventually, we went to therapy. Not because we were falling apart, but because I knew we needed help staying together in the right way. Jason was open to it, curious even. He liked the therapist, a kind woman with a gentle voice who never treated him like a child or a case to solve. She helped him talk about his feelings, and she helped me listen without trying to fix everything. With time, he began to smile more. His laughter returned. Not all at once, but in pieces. We played board games again, built things in the garage together, cooked meals while making a mess in the kitchen. He still had questions, but they weren't as heavy. He was letting himself be a kid again. Laura sent a final message. She said she was moving out of state, starting over. She didn't ask for forgiveness this time. She just said she hoped one day Jason would understand that she was human and flawed, and terribly sorry.
I didn't respond.
Maybe someday I'll let him read it, when he's ready. We've moved to a smaller house since then, nothing fancy, but warm and full of light. I kept my job. Jason made a few close friends at school. He's still brilliant, still thoughtful, but now he also plays soccer on the weekends and has posters of superheroes on his wall. Every now and then, we talk about the past. Not to dwell on it, but because it shaped us. He still wants to help people someday. He talks about becoming a lawyer, or maybe someone who investigates financial crimes. I believe he'll do great things. He already has. But most importantly, he's healing. We both are. And while there's no perfect ending to a story like ours, I've learned that not every story needs one. Some endings are just quieter beginnings.
So we live one day at a time.
We build trust again, in ourselves and in each other. We laugh when we can.
We cry when we need to.
And every night before he goes to bed, Jason says goodnight and gives me a hug, not out of habit, but because he wants to. That alone tells me we're going to be okay. Maybe not perfect. Maybe not untouched by pain. But okay. And sometimes, that's more than enough.